Lock in.
What if I told you all that ancient descriptions of evil forces, they map cleanly onto modern engagement systems? I want to welcome you back to more symbolism in movies. Let's go deeper. Jesus, the Egyptians, as well as Gnostic frameworks, theologically, they all say the same thing. Now, as somebody who's talked to the Knights of the Templar, I've sat with people above the 33rd degree, right? That's just what it is. Moving past all of this. When you think about platforms, when you think about what happened in Pulse, right? It was a loss of identity. It was a loss of self. See, they operated they attacked isolation, despair. And not only did they attack it, once they removed the will from the power, they installed that into the person. But none of this was benevolence to the Pulse victims. These people suffered in real life. They crossed over. They had no autonomy of self. They tried to get back into this ramp, but because they lost human connectivity and what that actually means, they acted out of rage and violence. But again, they didn't know. Now, platforms, systems that optimize for emotional extremes, because that's what they were optimized for. The outcome is the same behavioral loop, right? Online, especially when you look at on social media. I think one of the scariest elements to post is not understanding the force. We know that it's evil, but it's not truly giving us an explanation behind what was the force that compelled them to this extreme, right? Now, when you think about ancient, you got to go to Egypt. I'm telling you right now, Egypt has a lot of real truth in it. I'm about to drop some jewels, right? So the Egyptians, they believed that if you cast certain spells, especially as it pertains to the Book of the Dead, the Book of the Dead is multiple books, but it's also a grimoire of spells. When you cast certain spells, you could cast a reincarnation spell, right? A falcon, a hawk. That's why they believed that some of the pharaohs came back as a bird or some crap, right? They also believe that you actually have to reassemble your consciousness. You have to reassemble your senses. You see what I'm saying? In an afterlife. They also believe in confessionals so that you don't die a second death. No matter what system you really believe in, if they speak of an afterlife, they're all kind of saying something similar. You experience potentially two deaths, one of the flesh, and if you don't do things right in the flesh, then it'll be one of the spirit, which will be your final death. You see what I'm saying? So you experience two births and two deaths in life, and Christianity kind of misses this, but let's keep going. Now, when you really think about the Gnostic layer, reality is distorted. Hear me out. So this is symbolism. False realities can be constructed through information streams. Perception is programmable. If reality is distorted, then behavior follows distortion. And then humans trapped in loop that they don't even recognize is happening to them. You see what I'm saying? But hold on, there's more. I want to drop a jewel in the middle of this post. What if demons aren't the problem? What if the systems we built act exactly like demons? What if that's the problem? I want you to understand something. A system doesn't need to actually be alive to act as though it is alive. But hold on. The greatest curse of a demon, right? It's not just the falling out of heaven. It's literally, hell is not just a state of mind. It's also the separation from the state of mind of heaven. It's also the separation from God. That is true hell for the demon, right? They're looking for rest. They wander in the wilderness, and then they come back to your home to distort you. That's Pulse, bro. Now, what if death is not the actual final end? What if fragmentation of your mind is? You see what I'm saying? Isolation is a very deadly thing. When you look in today's society, right, you see what the ghost did. They cause people to isolate, then they get depressed, and then they get suicidal. When you look at the demon in real time as it works through social media, right, from a symbolic lens, you got school shootings and you have mass suicides. Not necessarily all in one day, but over time, these numbers start to mean something. So if you cut somebody off long enough, you add enough stress, you overload their mind with these extreme belief systems that social media will push on you. They stop feeling, they stop connecting, they stop being fully human. That's not fiction, bro. That's actual psychology. So the second death can actually happen while you're still alive, not just in Egyptian cosmetology, right? Spirituality, systems. You see what I'm saying? But let's keep going. I want to ask you a question about this movie Pulse because it was powerful, it was deep, it is old. But as I'm watching and re-engaging with it yesterday and today, it's really opening my mind. What if the scariest part about Pulse is not actually dying, but what if it's actually what happens after when you can't put yourself back together again, right? If you study Egypt, they show you the second death is not necessarily of the body, it's of the mind, which is how you can't theoretically experience your second death first here on earth. Now that's hard to understand, but you must re-listen to what I said. If the death of your mind in the spiritual realm is the second death because you can't reassemble your senses, you lost your memory, your identity, then you can experience that here. One of the powerful things about Josh in the movie is what kept him from crossing over and becoming fully a pulse demon, right? A parasite. It was his memory of his girlfriend, the love that he had. I might have to do another Interstellar post because that was a powerful thing. Love transcends time and space. There's a gravitational pull, yada, yada, yada. But whatever the case, Jesus shows you the way. The Egyptian lore shows you the way. Psychology shows you the way. And post illustrates what happens perfectly when people fragment their identity in themselves and they can't piece themselves back together properly. When you can't remember who you are, it will compel you to operate in extremes that you don't even realize you're operating in. And not only will you operate in these extremes, you're going to operate them in a form of a loop. So this is your hell. But hold on. Life is a house of mirrors. From day one, they tell you you're born of sin, you're separated from God. They grade you A to B. They do these comparisons of what success is, the American dream, yada, yada, yada. All the while, they got nepotism, handicaps, manipulation, and rigged systems, right? And it causes you to lose pieces who you are. So I just want to say this and end it with this. Death is not the scariest outcome. Becoming something that can't feel human anymore is the scariest outcome. Ancient systems didn't just fear death. They feared what happens when you lose the ability to remember who you are. And right now, I cast a spell upon all of you to remember who you are. Don't let this house of mirrors that the demiurge has created here on Earth confuse you about your abilities. You must believe. Thank you for watching if you stayed this long, and I'll be back with more. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this with another awakening soul so that they don't end up just another pulse.